Hello, everybody. I'm Ron Story, and we would like to welcome you to the Personal Exit Plan. I'm joined today with the co-host of the Personal Exit Plan podcast, Darian George. And our idea today is to give you a little bit of our background, to tell you how we arrived at the thought process and the methodologies that we've developed. In most, most comic book stories or movies, there's character development. And when you understand the background of those characters, you can better understand how they arrive there and find where you fit and who you relate to the most. So today I'm going to tell you about, where I came from. Darian's going to tell you about where he came from. And then at the end, we're going to explain to you a bit about how you can take some of the same steps that we took, and we're going to answer some user questions. All right. So Darian, you ready for the show, man?
Oh, of course, man. Excited.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting, man. I think a lot of times people underestimate the power and the freedom that they have, right? I'll let you go ahead and tell your story, then I'll tell mine. But let's talk about where you're from, not how you arrived here, but where you're from. Well, how'd you grow up?
Okay. My name is Darian George. I am from Rockford, Illinois. It's right there on the border. For the people that don't know, it's actually north of Chicago. It's right on the border with Wisconsin. I have a total of 7 siblings. If you count, the whole gambit of all my siblings. From a small town in Rockford, 150,000 people. Sometimes it's in the top 10 as far as crime is concerned within the country, per capita, of course, because you have Chicago's neighboring, but per capita is usually pretty high. But yeah, I'm just from there. I have a background in law enforcement, actually. A lot of people don't know that about me. Before I got into education, which we'll talk about later, I was a police officer for about 3 years, but I saw the writing on the wall a long time ago, so I decided to get out of that one. Like one of my favorite phrases is like, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going, but the smart people left a long time ago. And so that's how I feel about law enforcement. It's also how I feel about leaving the country, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, that's pretty much my background.
No, it's cool. Yeah. So, Rockford is an interesting place because we got a running joke when we talk about Rockford versus East St. Louis, because Rockford is like the East St. Louis of the North. It's an outside city, outside of a bigger city. Yeah. And it's not the ideal place. A lot of people from Rockford would claim they're from Chicago, but they're not. Just like a lot of people that's from East St. Louis will claim that they're from St. Louis when they're not. But when they back in their cities, they from East St. Louis or they from Rockford, right? So there's a lot of civic pride in where we've grown up. Like I said, I'm from East St. Louis. My parents were both school teachers. We grew up broke. I still remember watching, friends of the family chop up rock cocaine on our coffee table while my mom was at work and bag it up, So, this is no way a privileged story, but I don't want you to feel sorry for me either. I just want to let you know that if you're anywhere better than us or came from a better background, you could do this, right? There's no, oh man, I wish I could, but yeah, just say you don't want to do it. But there's no excuse. Your upbringing should never be an excuse as to why you can't see more than 200 miles from where you live.
Yeah, I like the story he gave, talking about kind of like a comic book. You see all the origin stories, and we see like Batman when he's Batman, but we don't see like how he was Bruce Wayne and how he got to that point. And we're not superhuman. We don't have any special powers, any special abilities. We just saw opportunities and we took them. And I think you get to a point where you can be a victim or you can change your circumstance and you can change the situation. And that's what we decided to do as far as, I guess making this personal exit plan. But also we still have roots back home. We're still very proudful of our people. We still have businesses back home and connections and properties and all different things. And we donate for scholarships and we're deeply involved in the community, but just from here. And
exactly.
And we'll talk about where here is in a second.
You can do that remotely. One of the cool things about life is that you can have your own plan. We're telling you what we did. We're not telling you what you should do, right? So look at us as lifeguards, not umpires. A lifeguard jumps in when you're drowning, but the rest of the time, if you ain't drowning, just play in the water, right? Umpire is gonna call balls and strikes. We will never call balls and strikes, right? We're just gonna lifeguard you. If you wanna try to travel the world or travel the country, one of my friends, she just did a 50-city tour, going to different basketball courts around the East Coast.
Wow.
Drove by herself for 75 days, right? In the car by herself, no hotels, staying with friends and sleeping in the car. that's what she wanted to do. That was one of her dream trips. She asked me how she should do it. We walked through a plan for about 2 hours one day. 2 weeks later, she was on the road doing that. So the exit plan is up to you. Again, we're not here to judge you. We're here to help you and to inspire you to see more of the world, because it definitely changes you. I'm not the same person I was in 2015 before I bought that one-way ticket to Honduras. You know?
No, I agree with him. We just want to provide different options. Coming from working class families, coming from lower middle class families, we are provided 3 options coming out of high school, right? Mm-hmm. If you graduate high school, you're provided with get a trade, go to college, or go to military. Those are the 3 options. Yep. No one ever talks about entrepreneurship. No one ever talks about going abroad. And those are the things that we should be looking into the most, because that's how you get enriching experiences and build generational wealth, more so than getting 4-year education, $200,000 in debt, and you're paying off student loans for the rest of your life, and you end up in that trap.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, no. Right? We both got student loans. Right?
Oh, yeah. I'll probably die with that.
Yeah, I mean, he got like 4 degrees. I barely made it through my 1. So, you know, so we are educated. We're not pooping on anything. Again, it's the lifeguard mentality. We just want to let you know that you can relate to what we're talking about. And so let's talk about that. So Darian, what do you do career-wise, right?
Okay, so I work in education. I am the vice principal of the 2nd largest international school in Colombia, here in South America. Colombia does not have a U in it. I just have to explain it to people. People always spell it. When can I come visit you in Colombia? I'm like, well, first spell it correctly. And I've been working internationally in education for the past 8 years now.
Okay, and what countries have you lived?
Okay, so I've lived in Costa Rica, I've lived in Honduras, I've lived in the Dominican Republic, and I've lived in 2 different cities here within Colombia. So I started in Cali, Colombia, and now I'm in Medellin.
Gotcha. Okay. So what was the inspiration of you taking that first trip?
Oh man, the first trip, this is a little bit of a long story, but I'll explain it in a brief way because I know I only have like 30 minutes. Like I said, I worked in law enforcement. I did that for 3 years, had a lot of really bad calls where I felt like I was about to have to kill somebody, like literally. And it becomes that thing in the news. And then we actually had a situation like that happen where they killed an unarmed black man. Al Sharpton was there, Jesse Jackson was there, and people were protesting. I'm like, yep, don't want to do this anymore. So I did naturally what any black man from Rockford, Illinois would do. I moved to Atlanta. So I moved to Atlanta. I loved it. I was actually working at a call center there, had a pretty cushy job. And one day I got a double tap on the shoulder, got called into my boss's office. And he was like, yeah, we like you as a manager, but we're only pretty much keeping the people that are bilingual. I'm like, oh, I can learn Spanish, you know. He's like, yeah, if you don't already know it, it's kind of out of luck. So I took a trip to Costa Rica. Didn't know any Spanish. I went on a 15 days notice, packed up my entire apartment from Atlanta, drove it back home to Rockford, left the stuff in my grandmother's basement, flew to San Jose, Costa Rica. It's funny because I was thinking of San Juan. I actually got on the wrong plane by accident. I almost ended up in Puerto Rico, which would have been horrible. So I ended up in San Jose, Costa Rica. And I loved it. Didn't know anything. The first 2 weeks, I feel like I was stuck in an episode of Telemundo, right? It's like I couldn't, someone changed this channel and people were speaking so fast. And it was one of them situations where I was like, okay, I really need to catch up to the learning curve. I'm gonna stay here and I'm gonna teach English. That's what I thought. And I ran into a black man who was from Decatur, Illinois, of all places. And he was like, you about to do what? No, don't teach English. He's like, that pays, peanuts. Pennies on the dollar. I said, what should I do? He's like, go back home, get certified to teach, get a master's degree if you can in education, and then you'll be able to travel abroad. This guy had been to 50 different countries. He was retired, and he took the money that he retired with and bought a restaurant in Costa Rica.
But that's one of the things that a lot of people assume is that, oh, I'll just go teach English because I know English. Yeah. And you can't do that. You're just going to get paid some BS money. Yeah. You're not going to make the money you thinking you're going to make. You may as well work at the restaurants.
What the going rate for teaching English there was roughly around $4 to $5 an hour, right? And you have to realize the locals make local currency. And those are the people that want to learn English. It's not like you're teaching English to foreigners that got money. Exactly. No, you're teaching it to the locals. And so there's not really a lot of money in that. And so what I did is I came back home. I taught in Rockford. I taught in Chicago. I taught in Gary, Indiana, of all places. And that drove me to going abroad, dealing with the behavior issues that I was running into. I'm like, this is worse than in law enforcement. No,
that's pretty cool. So my story is a bit on the other side of that, right? So he was a police officer. I left because of what the police did in St. Louis.
Ferguson,
right?
to be exact,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. When the Mike Brown thing happened, I was like, ah, man, dude, how's that Honduras thing working out, man? You know, he was like, man, I'm down here, but nobody's come to visit me. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna come down, man. I need to see what this is about. And I hopped on a plane and went down there, and it was scary. It was.
I know you mentioned on the last one, but tell them, well, how was your first day? What was your welcoming?
Okay,
to Honduras?
first day, we get in at about 11 o'clock from the airport. He goes, doom, 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 on this steel door that looked like he came from Game of Thrones. They had a fort built around this apartment that had 8 feet of concrete and then 4 feet of electrified wire. And you hear it, zzz, 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 you hear that stuff all day. And I'm like, where are we at? But it's dark, so I didn't know like what the neighborhood looked like. I hadn't seen it when the sun was up yet. That's a whole other story, right? But I'm like, all right, so he bangs, doom, doom, doom. One thing opens, shotgun comes out. 2 eyes looking at us. He like, hey, it's me. They said, down in, okay. Open up the door, we walk in, and it's 4 beautiful duplex apartments in this thing. And it's only Americans that live there, or only international teachers that worked at the school that live there. And it was cool. The next morning, I wake up at like 8. They already at work. All the teachers done left. I'm in the kitchen in my t-shirt and some shorts, cooking. I got some eggs. I hear they have a window in the kitchen. The guy knocks on the window. I look. He got a shotgun at me. He had tapped the shotgun on the window. I dropped the damn eggs and put my hands up, and I'm like, I tried to avoid dying by the cops, and this is how I'm gonna go out, you know? I don't speak no Spanish, so I didn't know what to say to him, you know? And luckily, the guy who was working the night before happened to be doing rounds with him, and he was like, no, he's okay, right? So I put my hands down, you know, my stomach went back to its right position. I cleaned up the floor, and yeah, that was my welcome to Honduras, you know? The rest of the time, that wasn't much different. It was just as scary.
Now, Honduras is an interesting place, and we don't want to scare you, but we do want to, you know, kind of enlighten you to, like, there's certain places that are more favorable. One thing, and you'll see it almost every place that I've been to, there's been a black presence. So in Honduras, you have the Catrachos, which are like the Honduran people that are mixed with the natives and Europeans, and then you have the Garifuna people, which are West African, and they've been there for like 300 years. They have their own language, their own culture, and you'll find more of them on the coast. They look a little different than us because they, you know, they self-isolate, right? I won't say segregate, but they self-isolate, right? They keep to themselves, and so a lot of them look more West African, but very welcoming people, especially if you look closer to them than other people. I went to a bar once with my white counterparts, and they weren't allowed to come in because they weren't Garifuna, and I was like, hey, peace, I'll let y'all later.
Yeah,
like, I'm about to have a good time. This is what happens to me in the States, right?
Exactly, it's reverse racism, right?
Yeah,
no, I'm just joking.
If that was the thing.
But,
right?
but the idea, what I always like to tell people is that every country that you go to is just like the city you grew up in, right? There's gonna be great areas, there's gonna be okay areas, and there's gonna be areas you just don't wanna go to, right? I'm not one of those people that's like, I need to go see the areas I'm not supposed to go to. No, I'm not supposed to go there, so I'm not going there. I'm okay with staying in the okay areas and the better areas. Now, you take the liberty to live wherever you want to live. A lot of people here, man, I like going over here, the people like that. It's so cool, remind me of home. Cool, I came here to get away from home. I didn't come here to go and live back like I was living at home. So, you know, be sure that wherever you go, you're going to hear good stories and you're going to hear horror stories. And just know that you have to balance those out with your own experience. So my experience in that apartment wasn't negative. It was a positive experience because the security that was paid there was doing their job. Their job was to protect the people that lived in that residence. And I didn't live there. I've been there for 12 hours, right? So they were doing their job. So just be leery of the stories, because everybody, you can find a horror story about your street that you live on. If you Google enough on Facebook or you search enough on Facebook, somebody has a horror story about where the neighborhood you grew up in. So, you know, try not to be judgmental, but be precautious. That would be my advice wherever you go.
Yeah, I mean, I would say research. When I researched, so I'll explain how I ended up in Honduras really quickly, right? So I went to a job fair in Iowa, of all places, in the middle of winter. I mean, it was like a snowstorm to get through it. And I was looking for something, in Latin America because I wanted to get better at Spanish. I wanted to practice Spanish. And I'm a certified history teacher, geography, philosophy, and economics. And so I've taught advanced placement economics, all those things. The only place at the time that was hiring for those positions happened to be Honduras. Now I had offers in Asia, like Korea, Taiwan, Middle East is always giving up offers, and those are great places to be. They just don't speak Spanish. So I took the job in Honduras. Mm-hmm. And it was like the biggest and probably the best international school in the country. I love the school. I'm not a huge fan of the country. Nothing against the people. The people are nice. It's just a very violent place. I remember what made me not renew my contract after 2 years. I used to get up and run a 5K every morning. So I get up at about 5 a.m. I'm about to put on my shoes, and I just hear a drum roll of gunshots. Oh, yeah. And so took the shoes off, laid right back down. I'm like, all right, let me get out of here. And so that's what pushed me to move to the Dominican Republic, which I love the country, did not like the school I was working at. So it was like that difference.
Yeah, and I mean, and you've taken a career path, right? Mm-hmm. You've done it within your education, within a career. My choice to go to Honduras was because I could, because I did it within my business, right? So the business that I run today isn't the business that I was running then, but entrepreneurship, everything that I tell you all will be from the perspective of entrepreneurship. Everything that Darian talks about will be from his perspective as a career person. So there's no excuse. If you got a career, there's a path. He talks about career paths and stuff like that, career fairs. I'm gonna tell you like, yo, this is how I started this little business and it generated X amount. So I was able to do that to go here. So you'll hear like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of like the real estate book where the guy talks about how his rich daddy did this and his poor daddy, and they had two different trains of thoughts, but they both made him into who he was, right? So this is kind of like career friend, entrepreneur friend, right? Like that's kind of how
I went into education, so he would be the rich dad out of the scenario.
No, that's the misconception. Most entrepreneurs are broke as shit. Okay,
I would be the poor dad in this situation. No, and really for the local currencies, and this is something we'll go more into depth about. You can live a pretty good life. I mean, this is the apartment that I stay in here, and we can go over details later, but I pay roughly in one of the best neighborhoods in Medellin about 450 USD. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, this is my own furniture. As you can see, this is my artwork, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't be able to find anything, not even Rockford. In Rockford, this would be at least $800 a month. In Chicago, forget about it. We're talking 2 stacks, 3 stacks.
And including utilities, is that what it is?
So including utilities and internet and everything, I probably pay like $580 a month.
Okay. Yeah, which is great.
And I have the best internet.
Like the top of the line. Yeah. I mean, the TV, everything. So, I think that puts things in perspective. Now, most people here in Colombia, the minimum wage here is about $250 a month. Mm-hmm. So most people, they could live in Darian's neighborhood, but they would have to live with multiple people in order to afford it.
Correct.
The quality of the neighborhood doesn't necessarily determine always the quality of the apartment. No. Because there are some people here who live in neighborhoods that I wouldn't live in, but their apartments are just like ours. They just have a different neighborhood setup, right? Mm-hmm. So, when you hear someone makes $250 a month, that's like them making $10 an hour in the States, mm-hmm. right? In the same way, so don't be afraid that, oh man, they're gonna hit me over the head and take my iPhone. Well, I'm proof that they probably won't do that. We're filming all of this on 4 iPhones and an iPad, right? And I carried it all over here. Like nobody smacked me over the head and took it. And these ain't iPhone 3s, right? I mean, these are iPhone 11s, and this is the newest iPad, and I bought it here at the Apple store. Like, they got the same stuff. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
It's a huge misconception that people are swinging from trees or we're in some type of jungle. No, things are very modern here. One thing, being in a place like this does afford you to have is better services. So I have a cleaning lady that comes about once a week. It costs about 15 USD
per day.
Per day when they come to clean. I got a 1-hour massage yesterday. A regular massage, okay? Nothing inappropriate. No, they do offer that as well, but I don't like those. I like deep tissue massages because I work out, and that was roughly $12.
Yeah,
I gave her a tip, so I'll probably spend about $15 again. Gym memberships are about the same they would be in the States. Ubers and DDs, we use what's called DD here, which is like a Lyft or Uber, super cheap.
Yeah, $2. My 20-minute ride over here cost me $2 to get from the other side of town where I live. So yeah, I mean, I think I explained in the earlier video what my cost of living was, so I don't want to go into that. But you can live a very good life for less than $2,000 a month.
Easy.
If you know, like people go to the bars and they don't sell, like they sell drinks, but the drinks are just overpriced from when I put it in context. So if you go out to a nightclub, you get a cocktail or a cocktail as it says, as we said in English, that may cost you the regular price, right? But you can get the whole bottle for the cost of the bottle at the grocery store.
Yeah, it's like maybe
right?
10% markup.
Yeah, exactly, right? And that's the tip that you paying the person who brought you all the stuff, and it includes the sodas and everything. So imagine going out in the States and buying a bottle of whatever rum you drink or vodka you drink, and you're gonna pay $200 for that bottle, and that's for a fifth. Like we can go out here and get a gallon, like the big one, not a fifth, a full liter or whatever it is. I can't think of it. Is it a liter or a gallon? It's one of them, a big one. We can get the biggest bottle they got for $30, right? And we all drink on it, right? So, you know, like one of these little bottles right there, they like $20 when you go out, right? And then they even got little small half bottles for like $15. So you can live a really good lifestyle. I buy filet mignon here for $6 a pound, right? Which is unbelievable. Where are you getting filet mignon for $6 a pound? I posted a video of these tomahawk steaks. Those steaks cost me $9 a piece. They were 2-pound tomahawk ribeye steaks. We'll put some of that in here so y'all can see that it's bananas, right? So whenever you go somewhere, you can take advantage of that arbitrage. And we wanted to today give you kind of an overview of how we arrived here, what our paths were. If you listen to the previous episode, you know my path. But I wanted to introduce you to Darian, the co-host of the podcast, because we have different sets of friends. And I have friends that live all over the world. Darian has friends that live all over the world. And he's going to be interviewing his friends to tell their perspectives. I'm going to be interviewing my friends in some episodes to tell their perspectives so that you can get a full round point of view, whether you're retired, whether you're former military, you're female, whatever. We're going to cover all of those things. We're going to have our friends come on to give you their perspective from the perspective of a lifeguard. We're not going to be judging you. Nobody's going to tell you, don't do this. This is stupid. No. It's like, yo, go live. You know, wait till I tell y'all the story about how I got drugged and robbed, right? That's going to be very interesting. That is like one of the funniest stories we're going to cover. But I didn't get afraid of it. I was like, yo, these are the nicest criminals ever. They drugged me, took my iPhone, and took me home. Who does that? Like, that's perfect. So, I mean, it's incredible. But we'll tell that story in another episode. So be sure to subscribe to the Personal Exit Plan podcast. What we want to do now is just answer a basic user question. User questions that people put in the YouTube comments the other day from the original episode. And let me see if I can pull that up here. So, Darian, we may be able to get through a few of these.
Okay.
What's the first step when wanting to leave the country?
I think you want to find out what the immigration laws are in the other country. So you got different places that have visa requirements if you're going to be on a tourist visa, if you can just go in your passport, if you actually have to buy a visa and explain. I think that's something really important to look at. What vaccinations you might need. I got a really crazy story about a vaccination situation that almost left me stranded at the airport. So I think those different things, and then, you know, what the experience is going to be.
Okay.
What about you?
What do people do before that? Before they even figure out the country? What do they start? Let's imagine they know nothing. This is the first conversation. We the first two black folks they ever seen. Because I'm the only person in my family with a passport, or at least I'll say this, I was the first person in my family with a passport, right? So I didn't know, I didn't have anybody to ask that had been somewhere. I didn't even know where to start. So if I were to say the first thing, if you were like me, who from East St. Louis, don't have any of your family and friends that have flown out of the country or even taken a cruise, what I would say is Google. Yeah, Google places. YouTube. Like you hear about places. You heard about Colombia now. Google Colombia and just look and see what's in Colombia. Look at the cities, click on the images and see, like, wow, they got a subway. They got this thing called a metro cable that's like a ski lift that takes you up the mountains. Look at all the modern things that are in these different countries. So Google is the first step to look at pictures, to imagine, and to dream. There's a great channel called Passport Heavy where a guy named Jabril, who's from Chicago, makes great videos displaying countries that he's gone to and how, what the cost of living is like. But there's a lot of, some of the best videos on YouTube are cost of living in this country. Right? Cost of living in Dominican Republic, cost of living in Honduras, wherever, cost of living in Europe. So I think that's where I would start, like if I didn't know anything. But if you've already done that and you have an idea, do what he said. If you know where you want to go, find out what the rules are to get there, right?
Also, I think, and us, looking at being African-American, being black, you also can just go on Facebook and type in black expats in Colombia. There's groups just for that, and they'll answer questions. We get I would say some of the dumbest questions sometimes from people, but when people don't know, they don't know. And so one thing, you have to take in consideration, you're not going to find all the same products that you would in the States, not always, but the same way when you go from DC to Atlanta, it's like, oh man, they don't have, the chicken that I eat. Of course not, you're in a different city. Exactly. Oh, they don't have pizza like deep dish in Chicago. Okay, you're not in Chicago.
Yeah, stay in Chicago, that's what you want.
And so that's something to take in consideration, but I've met a lot of people through the Black Expats groups, different groups on chats, this app called WhatsApp. I know it's not very popular in the States, but anybody that's been international has WhatsApp. It's like social media, but it's more like a texting, messaging app. So.
Yeah, I think that's where I would definitely look at the Facebook groups. I remember when Black Expats started, we were like number 35. Yeah. It was like 20 of us in there, right? Now that group has 2,000 people, which is incredible. It's like 1,800 people in that group now. And that's in the last 3 years that many black folks have come to Colombia as a place of living or visiting, that we know of, that have self-identified that, hey, we trying to figure it out. We're thinking about living there. So I would definitely start with Google if you don't have any experience. If you have some experience, start figuring out what the legalities are. How long can you stay? Today, November 6th, I almost got deported, right? That's the next episode. How do you avoid being deported? Like Ron almost got deported. I mean, there literally were people in the office crying. They was having to pay fines, buy tickets, and I was going in there to tell the truth. I was trying to do it the right way, and they almost kicked my black behind up out of here. But I got 24 days to figure it out. So we'll cover those different things. We appreciate you all taking the time to check out the Personal Exit Plan podcast. Again, we're just here to be the lifeguards. We want to make sure that we leave you with that. Darian has said that, people ask dumb questions. Well, people do dumb stuff in the pool. The lifeguard ain't gonna jump in to save them, though. They just playing, right? So people will ask questions that we've heard a lot. And we're like, dude, this is a common sense thing, which is cool. We want those questions. We'll answer them for you. But just know, we think that you're doing dumb stuff in the pool.
Yeah, no, it's like there's no such thing as a dumb question. Just dumb people.
Dumb questioner, right?
Yeah, dumb people that ask questions.
Yeah, but in the video below, ask your questions. We're not going to judge you. No. We're going to actually bring the questions on like we did today. And we're going to try to make videos about that because we want to help you get your exit plan together. That exit plan can be leaving East St. Louis and moving to New York City, or moving to LA, or moving to Canada. Just what's your exit from misery. That's what we're exiting from. We're not exiting the US. We just happen to find happiness outside of the US, right? And we're going to answer the obvious question. We are two heterosexual guys. Like, this is not nothing, because people always ask, y'all lived in St. Louis together? Y'all lived in Honduras together? Y'all lived in Dominican Republic together? Y'all lived in Colombia and Cali and Medellin together? Yeah, it's my best friend for 20 years. We pledged the same frat. I've known this dude since 2000. So just to make sure, so everybody who watching this, don't send us no goofy questions.
I just remember it was funny when we went on a trip to Atlanta.
Oh, dude, go ahead and tell
I forgot. I left with one of my homegirls from Illinois State, and I didn't have my key to get in. So when I get there to the desk, I ask for my key, another key. It's like, well, it's under the name of Ron Story. I'm like, yeah, it's my boy, Like, oh, well, we got called up there because it could be a domestic dispute. A domestic dispute?
Well, here's the funny thing. Let's go back before that. When we went to check in, they was like, y'all want one bed or two? Two! Of course we want
3 beds if possible.
Like, y'all want one bed or two? Well, we want two beds. We're okay. We're secure heterosexual guys. We just want to make sure, because people ask, y'all been living together for 20 years. Y'all don't have no kids. Neither one of y'all are married. That's a whole nother discussion. We're living our best life. We ain't going back and forth with these.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, we make very good decisions, and we're going to help you to make those same decisions. Now, yeah, so that's the Personal Exit Plan podcast. We're glad to have y'all on here. Thanks. As you can see, we're pretty laid back. It's going to be really funny. We got some great stories, considering that we've lived in 5 countries over the last 20 different years. We got some crazy, outrageous stories. So you want to tune in just for the stories, because I think it'll show you how to enjoy life a little bit more, whether you're in St. Louis or in, you know, Botswana or wherever you want to be, right? So any final words before we go?
No, I would say definitely, you know, I was joking about the stupid question things. Make sure you put, you know, some type of questions in the comments. We will read each and every one of them, and we'll respond to them. It may not be the next episode, but we'll make sure we get to them and even shout people out, because this is a conversation. You know, you may not be here in person, and we know everything going on with COVID, but this is a conversation that we're having with you guys. And again, we're just lifeguards trying to help people see their way through the waves. So.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me at Ron Story Jr. On Instagram or on all platforms. If you want to send your question as a video in the DMs, shoot me the video question. We'll put that up. So I think our next segment, we'll do video questions from users, and we'll actually put those videos up of you asking the question in the video, so you get a chance to be on the podcast. If you send me me or Darian, he'll give you his information. But if you send us a DM video of your question about traveling.
Okay. Yeah, my Instagram is Apollo the Creed. I'll explain that later, but it's arroba. I'll say arroba, that's Spanish. The @ Apollo the Creed on Instagram, and you guys can find me there.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so talk to y'all later. Peace out.
Peace.